So we're going to talk in this section, we're moving on from you to your market again, and I want to talk about something that I call use case thinking. And a use case in business, it's not an original concept, but a use case is describing how someone would actually use something or how they used it. And in use case thinking, what you do is you use some of the tools, the customer avatar model, the taking the customer's perspective, the thinking like them, and you start talking and thinking in use cases, how your customer will actually be using the thing, but you do it from the beginning. You do it during the ideation phase. And in order to have this type of thinking and communication, you remember I've said it a couple of times now, some of the most successful people that I know, the ones that just are amazing at marketing, when we start talking about a project, they immediately say, okay, so, we're going to sell a piece of software that helps you build a web page faster. We say, okay, great. The first thing they do is they go, okay, so I'm a person, I want to sit down, I want to build a web page, and they get right into that mindset. That's where they start, is going there. So I want to go over quickly your customers. And we've made allusions to this kind of stuff, but I just want you to really get this, that we as business people love to idealize our customer. We love to imagine our customer as being just like us, smart, attractive, whatever, not that we are a good-looking group, I will say that, but just a little more idealized than they really are. The irony, of course, is that you want to talk to them from an idealized perspective, but don't assume that they are. So the average person, and I don't even like to use that term, but the average person in our culture here in America, and in a lot of kind of modern cultures, has an IQ of 100. IQ of 100, by definition. And that means that half of people have an IQ less, and half of people have an IQ higher. It's a quotient. They're 30 or 40 pounds overweight. They probably have moderate to low self-esteem, probably some level of anxiety, depression. I read an article probably last year that said we've hit a new low. On average, we now have 0.75 best friends. I think that's like having 2.3 children, except not as good. Although maybe it's the 2.3 children. Anyway. 0.75 close friends. What does that mean? That means that we don't have a lot of people to connect with, and the numbers are going down. We don't have a lot of people that we can identify with, that can give us support when we need it, that we can give support to. Remember Wyatt talking about emotional intelligence? Daniel Goleman wrote a book recently called Social Intelligence that might even be more profound than emotional intelligence, because it's the interaction of two people, that intelligence. Emotional intelligence, there's an external part of it, but it's an internal thing, becoming intelligent about your own emotions. Social intelligence is about the interaction and group interactions. Their household makes $50,000 a year. Their household makes $50,000 a year. Gross. That's before they make the payments on the average of $8,000 that they have in debt. It's before their taxes. It's before the lottery tickets that they're buying. You with me? It's before the junk food habit or the alcohol that they're using to make themselves feel better because they don't have people that are close to them. And finally, John? Is John in the room? No? He's probably hiding. He doesn't like to see the spotlight. My friend John Carlton, who is one of the top copywriters that's ever lived, He's running around here somewhere. I did a consultation with him and charged a lot of money. I told this story on Print Persuasion if you were on that training. He said something profound. He said, people are bored. Your customer is bored out of their mind. Not only are they bored, but they don't even know anyone that's not bored. Right? They don't know interesting, exciting, motivated people. They don't know anyone that's trying to change the world. They wake up bored. They get ready for a boring job. They do a boring morning routine and read a boring paper and take a boring commute, work with boring people, have a boring lunch, drive a boring commute home, watch TV bored, and go to sleep bored, and wake up the next day and do it again. A few years ago, I was in Washington, D.C., going to museums, and I sat down in a cafe, and I think there were 4 women sitting at a table, and I could tell they were on their lunch break from work. They were all dressed professionally, and they all had a big plate of unhealthy food. They were all clearly unhealthy, just you could tell by looking at them, horribly out of shape. And I listened to them talking about work and about their lives and about what was going on. And I realized that their universe had nothing to do with improving, evolving, developing, becoming the best that they could be, impacting the lives of others. It had become their routine and complaining about what their children and their husbands were doing and about what Sally at work was doing and how the boss took credit for this or whatever. And that was it. That was their reality. And one of the exercises that I recommend that you do, I recommended this on the Print Persuasion Masterclass program. Go to a Walmart outside of a big city. Why are you laughing and shaking your head? Oh, you've done it? Okay. Yeah, go to a Walmart outside of a big city. I'm not kidding, by the way. I'm not kidding about this. Go to a Walmart outside of a big city. Make sure you got to drive like 30 minutes. Plan to go for a couple hours. And go there to perform a sociological experiment. You're going there to listen. You're going there to understand other people. You're not going there to shop. You have a totally different purpose. You get to do something that's slightly sneaky for fun, for the benefit of others. And what I want you to do is see if you can find 2 or more people that are walking around shopping. Try to go when it's busy, figure out when those hours are, and try to stand there and listen to what they're talking about. Listen to the conversations that they're having and listen to what they're about. Listen to the level that they're communicating at. This first hit me, the power of this, a few years ago. I went out to, I had moved into my new apartment. See, I guess this was 2 years ago. I moved into a new apartment, and I didn't have any lighting. And the apartment didn't have any lighting. So I drove to a Target, and it was kind of outside of city bounds, long story. And I was around the holidays, and it was packed with people. And I was standing around, and I was just listening to conversations. Actually, there was another time that Dean and I went and did something like this too. But this was the real big breakthrough for me. And I was listening to the conversations people were having. They were buying Christmas lights, and they were getting into these arguments over where the Christmas lights were going to go. And they were really, really invested in this argument over who's going to win over the Christmas lights. I'm thinking to myself, don't you have something better to do than argue with someone you love over, how you're going to hang the Christmas lights up or where they're going to go or which ones you should buy? Just didn't connect for me. There was a woman, very, unfortunately, very overweight, very unhealthy, with a mob of children, of her own children around her, yelling and screaming and just wrecking the place. And she had one of those bags of those big cheese puffs, those big giant ones. They're like this big around and this long, and it's the supersized bag that you could like fit a child into. And she's got it open, and she's munching on them as she walks through the shopping experience. And whenever one of her kids would start getting too crazy, she'd pull a handful out and give them to the kids. And, yell at them a little bit. And, it impacted me in a way, like, not to, trying to not be judgmental in any way, but just, how's that kid going to get to here from there? Like, that path, that's going to be a tough path, right? But anyway, the point that I'm trying to make is that your customer, the person that's buying your stuff, probably is a regular person. And there's nothing wrong with being a regular person. I'm self-conscious when I talk about these things because it sounds like I'm judging people, and I feel that way sometimes. But I'm just trying to get in touch with who people are if I'm going to try to help them get to the next level with a product or service and speak their language. So it's important that you get out and get in there with your customers. You remember the guy who went out and hung out with farmers and said, "What's your problem?" And then they showed him, and he said, "I could figure out something to fix that." Or Procter & Gamble going and watching someone do laundry and then pull out one of the garments and wipe the thing and see how it works. Get out there, interact with your customers, find out who they are, learn more about them. Another thing I've noticed is that we like to choose our target markets as business people. It's like a universal. I'm going to plan my target. I'm going to plan who's going to buy this, rather than going out and figuring out a need, finding a group of people who want to buy something and then creating it for them. Do you understand the distinction? So this is emotional estimation and seeing only validation at its best. Is sitting back and thinking, okay, I'm going to create this thing, and I know who it's created for, and I'm going to make sure that they want it. I'm going to talk them into wanting it, rather than finding out something that they want and then giving it to them. And there's a little bit of each, because as a person who is creating, who is taking things and putting them together and making things that have never existed, we get to create and discover at the same time, and we need to balance those things. But I think you need to start with the customer's perspective. Stop trying to choose who's going to buy your stuff, and let them. So I want to do a quick little exercise. You guys have the use case thinking exercise? So this is an exercise, and we use exercises to tune our brains. Okay, we use the exercise to train our mind to do this automatically, and you need to do this on a regular basis. You might need to do it on paper over and over and over, and then your mind will start doing it automatically. This is like training wheels for use case thinking. So we start with situations that your prospect is experiencing. What are some specific situations that your prospect is going through that relate to the pain and urgency or the desire, passion that they have? Next, what are the irrational fears, desires, thoughts, and fantasies? Remember, we discussed the idea that all of the stuff that motivates us is irrational. It doesn't make any sense. Remember, I used the example, someone that's thinking of buying a golf club is not thinking, I'm going to buy that club, and I think that how much does a really good driver cost? $400? For $400, I'm going to get an extra 10 yards per drive, and that amounts to 46. So that's only 17 cents per drive over the year. I think it's worth it for the trade. That isn't how we think. Has anyone ever done that kind of thinking when they bought a golf club? This guy in the back over here? Liar. It's okay, like I said, we all have problems. We're being honest here. We think in terms of, when I roll up with my golf bag and I put it in the cart and my friends see it sticking out, they're going to be like, yeah. And when we see that, we go click, and then what do? Then we go do the math, and we rationalize it. Does that make sense? Okay, so it's all irrational. And you got to get in touch with what those irrational things are if you ever want to have a connect with your audience. You got to connect with the irrational. Next, how your prospect will search for you. How will they be looking for solutions? Where will they be looking? And then finally, the customer experience that you've planned. So take a couple of minutes and just fill this out. Again, we're just getting started. I think you can see that this exercise could be an entire day of work right here. You could dig into this. I mean, probably a weekend just on this one thing, right? So we're just getting started. I'm just giving you a tool. This is something that you can take out and use over and over and over in the future. We're just going to get rolling. So go to work on the use case thinking exercise just a couple of minutes.